Welcome everybody to Tool and Tie, episode number 3. Welcome everybody to Tool and Tie, episode number 3. Today we're going to have a really great show. I've got my co-host, who happens to be my wife, who's going to be coming on the show as well. And we're going to talk about a topic that is very important, and that is confidence to get things done. We're going to recap our experience in this episode and give you an overview of how everything went down. To really trace back to our experience, I'm going to go back to the day when we actually got the keys from the lawyer for our new home. You know, it took us a year and a half to find this home, and we were both full of excitement. We got the keys, and I drove down to the house as fast as possible. Poonam was coming from work, and she was going to meet me there as well. We cracked open those doors, and we walked in. Poonam, when we actually walked in, what was your first impression? Or what were the first thoughts that were going through your mind?
I remember walking in and really liking the layout of the house. And I think being married to USATs, it's really helped me sort of open up my eyes and see beyond what was there. So outside of the fact that the layout was beautiful, I was able to see beyond that. And I knew that the house needed to have a lot of work done on it, but I kind of felt confident that this could be our home. And I know a lot of people always say that you walk into a house and you'll get that gut instinct that, no, this is not where you should be. And then alternatively, you walk into a home and you just know. And I kind of got that feeling of just knowing that this is what was supposed to be for us.
Yeah, no, that's a great thought. Just in terms of looking beyond what's there, I actually talk about this in my second podcast. So go to www.toolandtie.com/episode 2. And I'll actually talk to you about something called the MUST method. It's something that I kind of came up with. It's my own little rendition of how to look beyond what's there and to really seek out the potential of what's there. So it's actually really interesting that you mentioned the layout and the fact that there's work that needed to get done. So one of the things you and I had actually established was we're not going to hire a contractor because to get this house, we had to make some sacrifices, and one of those sacrifices was we can't exactly afford a full-fledged contractor to come in and do the work. Some people may think that's crazy, but we're very optimistic people, we'll put it that way. So it's something that we had budgeted for. So if you also remember in episode 2, I talked a little bit about budgeting practices, and one of the things I mentioned is come up with your budget that's going to be based on what a contractor estimates the price for, and if you can do it cheaper, then that's a bonus. So I actually remember walking into the home, and I was wanting to get started right away. Like I wanted to rip things up right away. But anyways, we came back the next day, and I brought with me my hammer and my crowbar because I wanted to get rid of those tiles in the kitchen. They were old school, ugly. And the hardwood floor needed a lot of work in the family room, and the kitchen and family room are kind of connected, but they were separated with the tile and the hardwood floor. And I went there and I said, I'm going to take these hardwood floors apart. And there was a bit of hesitation that actually went through my mind. I was thinking, are we really going to do this? I know we've been talking it up, and this is something that we've been talking about for a while. But if I actually do this, I'm committed. And I remember I said, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And I broke the first piece of hardwood floor, and then I broke a few more to the point where I had about 25% of the family room, the hardwood floor, broken. And I remember you walking into the room that day because I think you were outside looking at something. I think you were in the backyard. And I remember you walking in, and you kind of had this look on your face. So can you tell our audience what was going through your mind?
I don't know if I recall the look that I had on my face.
I do.
But I think the thoughts that went through my mind at that point were there's no turning back at this point because 25% of it's gone. So there was a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of fear of, okay, this is up to us to fix now. But I know this is going to sound really cliche, and I swear he has not paid me off to say this, but there's just something about SATs that always gives me comfort. I know things can go really, really wrong and belly up, but somehow they just always work out. So, as much as I was anxious and as much as I was a little bit fearful, I was also very confident. And Sats is one of those types of people who, when he puts his mind to something, he's very determined and he researches the hell out of it. So he pretty much knows what to do, how to do it. And if something goes awry, he knows what to do to get it back to normal. So I really had a lot of confidence in USATs, and I kind of just went with that.
No, that's great. So for the audience out there, I'm not skilled in this kind of work. I've actually never done it before. This was my first time ripping up the hardwood floor, and at this point, I'm not even sure I knew what I was doing. I just knew I had to rip it off, and that was it. So when Poonam says that I've researched it, I really did. I'll sit there and I'll go on, like I said, I'll go to hardware stores and hardware stores, excuse me, and ask people questions. I'll go to forums. I'll go basically anywhere to get whatever information I can before I start a project. And just having that knowledge, I think, really helps drive your inner confidence as well. Because if I hadn't actually done the due diligence of researching that, I would probably struggle. And when I was having that moment of hesitation, I probably wouldn't have broken that first piece of hardwood floor. So, one thing, if I can stress to everybody out there, you can do it. There's absolutely no reason why you couldn't do it. If somebody else can do it, you can do it as well. You just need to research and prepare yourself. There are things that you may find that are unexpected. Don't worry. Just keep calm, and there's always a way to figure things out. So finding that inner confidence is extremely, extremely important. One of the things I always tell people is demolition is fun. Never outsource demolition. And I know I talked to you guys in episode 2 about me not factoring in demolition, and it cost me a lot of money. And it was mostly the waste removal that really added up as to why. But never outsource your demo. That's for sure. Here's a little tip for you guys. When you're actually looking to break apart hardwood floors or tile, I kind of started with the old school method, and that's using a crowbar and a hammer, and it took me a really long time. What you really need to do is either rent or purchase a hammer drill that has a chisel bit on it. And it probably took me a good, hour and a half to break apart that 25%. Mind you, this is the first time I was doing it, so I really didn't know what I was doing either. But it took me about that long. When I actually switched to the hammer drill with the chisel set, I was ripping through it like butter. Especially when I got to the tiles, it was so much easier. And when you're actually ripping out tiles, one of the things you may find is your tile is actually it's got thin set between the tile, and there's like a metal mesh that's probably nailed into the subfloor. So getting a chisel bit with the hammer drill, I swear to you, I was done in no time. So that's a little tip for you guys. Now, one of the things that one of the other things that I wanted to touch on was for homeowners that are looking to get into renovations. From a newbie, myself and my wife included, Poonam, I'm going to turn to you for this one, actually. If you were to go and give one tip to a homeowner that's new to renovations, given that you and I were new to it, what's that one tip that you would give to them?
That's a really good question. I think the tip that I would want to give to others is to prioritize the renovations. I mean, I think you can walk into any home, even if you just bring in your toothbrush and carry on, there's always going to be some little minor things that you want to change up. And I think my advice would be more to prioritize the stuff that you think you can actually handle and outsource the stuff that is beyond yourself. You have to have a good gauge of where your confidence starts and ends. And outsourcing is not a bad thing. It's not to say that you've thrown in the towel, so to say. It just means that you know where to kind of draw your line.
Yeah, no, that's really good advice. Actually, in one of the future podcasts, we're going to talk about planning your renovation, and then after we've planned the renovation, we're going to add resources to that plan, and certain things you may want to actually consider outsourcing. Like for example, where I live, a homeowner or a master electrician can take out a permit to a home. An electrician cannot. You either have to be a homeowner or a master electrician, and electricity is not something I want to mess with. So, that's one of those areas where it may be smart to actually outsource it because God forbid if something ever happened to your home, you better be able to present a permit to the actual insurance company. So we'll talk about in a future episode. Now, I wanted to actually turn to a conversation my wife and I were having with a couple. And we were actually at dinner and we are just talking about the renovations we were doing in our home. And one of the things that actually a friend of mine talked about was he was saying, yeah, you may want to get a whole bunch of guys to come over and help you because that's a lot of work. And I remember his wife actually turned to him and said, what do you mean guys? Why not girls as well? And he kind of he had this really dumb look on his face. It was actually pretty funny because I think he got whacked on the head, if I remember correctly. But anyways, it was kind of funny. So the conversation actually turned into something that was a serious yet mature conversation. And that is we were talking about the renovation trades that are out there, whether they're male dominated or should they be, or are they male dominated? But the landscape's really changing as of late. And there's a lot of females that are coming into this space and they are doing phenomenal, if not even sometimes better than the guys out there, because let's face it, guys, we're not the best when it comes to detail. But anyways, Poonam, so what's, you did a lot of the renovations in our home. You laid down the hardwood floors to the point where people were asking, who is this contractor that put the floor down? And we kind of smiled and it said it was you. So what advice do you have for females out there that are hesitating or that think this is male dominated? It's not something that they can do or, they should do. What's your advice to some of the females out there?
Well, I believe in equality. And I don't think that there's a certain job that is only male dominated or should only be done by men. And vice versa for women. I don't think there's anything that's out there that should be just, women dominated. I actually work in the nursing profession and I work with male nurses all the time. So I guess I've just opened up my horizons in that sense. My advice to those women is go for it. If you have the confidence and you feel, you've got the skill set and you've got the knowledge base to back it up, take that chisel and go nuts because that's exactly what I did. Again, I have to say that I did have a great mentor, Sats, being you, because a lot of the calculated work, I'm not a mathematician. I never have been. I hate numbers. This is hence the reason why I went into sciences. So the hard work as far as doing the calculations was done by you. And, as soon as I got the directions as far as what to do and got a little bit of, I guess, the 101 on certain tasks, I kind of felt confident in doing it on my own. And you're right. I have women. I don't know if it's just a woman thing. I would say it's just a personal thing. But I have an OCD, sort of personality. And those hardwood floors had to be perfect. So, I mean, anything that I've ever put my hands on has always had its own sort of rhythm and rhyme. So, the fact that I did a great job and people are commenting it, I'm very thankful and I'm happy about that. But it was just something that I had to do for myself because of the OCD that I deal with every day.
Yeah, well, your OCD definitely paid off because we have some beautiful floors downstairs, which is great.
Thanks.
So, one final question for you. So we went through a lot of this work. We stripped everything down in that room, in the kitchen and the living room. Sorry, the family room. And demolition, guys, is another podcast topic that's going to be a future topic. You don't want to miss that because I have a lot of good tips and tricks in that one. But we stripped everything down. And now you walk into the home and all you have is subfloor. You have drywall that's partially ripped off because we did find a little bit of mold. The house is about 7 or 8 years old. So there was a little bit of mold. But anyways, we stripped everything down to the core. And I remember you walked in that day as well. What were your thoughts?
Honestly, I'm a visual person. I have a hard time. Sometimes I have a hard time seeing things, sort of like forecasting it. So when I walked into an empty space, I guess the look that was on my face was, okay, how is this going to look? Because right now it looks like a gong show. It looks like a bloody bomb just blew up in this house. And then going back to my OCD, I was like, how am I ever going to get this house clean? Because honestly, for those that have never taken tile off, it's a very messy ordeal. The concrete and the grout and all that fun stuff that keeps the tiles on the ground, when they come apart, it is like smoky everywhere. So I guess the thoughts that were going through my mind is, okay, how am I going to get this place all in one piece again? And the other thing, I think the tidbit that I need to sort of drive home to everybody is patience is a virtue, because I can tell you from my own experience that I am not really exactly a very patient person. And this really tested my patience because every single day, there's another demolition going on. And of course, everything takes time. So, but yeah, going back to your question, I think it was just a feeling of I can't wait until this is over, and B, I hope it's going to look the way we've envisioned it to look.
Yeah, no, that's definitely great feedback. So we are gonna, wrap up this podcast very soon, but I just wanted to go back and drive a couple of key messages. First and foremost, when you're considering tackling a home renovation on your own, make sure you do the research. You have to be informed about things that could go wrong and things to expect. And when you actually encounter things that you expect, it actually builds your confidence a little bit more, which is really, really great. Second of all, when you actually get to the renovation and you're at that tipping point of whether or not you go forward or not, you really got to ask yourself, is this something that I can do? And when homeowners ask me whether or not it's something they can do, like I said, I'm a very optimistic person. So I say, if somebody else can do it, you can do it as well. So you really got to dig deep down and find that internal confidence and bring it out. Because, once you slam that hammer and once you break apart something, you're committed. The third thing is, don't ever outsource demo. Demo is so much fun. If you don't like your boss, put a picture on the floor and smash away. No, don't really do that. That's not nice. But demo is great. Demo's fun. Don't ever outsource demo. It's something that you should do on your own. Again, my tool tip was use a hammer drill to chisel any kind of tile. It'll go through like butter. I'll actually put a link in the show notes of the hammer drill that I used, and it's something that you can look into. And last but not least, family support is very, very important. Whether you're doing this renovation with friends, family, your spouse, your kids, you guys all really have to be invested in this. It is a journey. It is a trying time because you're living through a renovation. And as long as everybody's on board and everybody understands it and you have their support, you will be fine. So I actually wanted to thank you, Poonam, for coming on our show today.
My pleasure.
In our next podcast, it's going to be a very detailed podcast. We're going to talk about building a plan and the different components of building a plan and the different phases that you need to go through a plan. So everything from demolition to planning materials to planning resources and whatnot. So it's going to be a very informative podcast. Don't miss it. And until then, guys, stay safe, stay happy, and I'll talk to you guys in the next podcast.